Firstly, it was a mantra of our president that there is no alternative to the Minsk process, and after some time it became a mantra for the Western leaders, and they are supporting the Ukrainian way of seeing how these agreements should be implemented. But now we see the change of mood, at least in European partners, because the United States and their position was to put in such a sequence this application of these agreements that firstly there should be ceasefire and the lasting peace, and then there will be political settlement. And the European partners are proposing something different, and that contradicts the whole logic of the Minsk Accord. Certainly we can lose some support, at least some, we can call some anxiety in the Western capitals, but firstly, it's up to the Ukrainian people to decide its future. Secondly, the Western community decided to impose sanctions on Russia, not because of the so-called Minsk Accords, but because of the violation of Russia, the Charter of the United Nations, the OSCE Final Act, and other international treaties. And so it's up to them to seize these sanctions if they decide that Russia is in compliance with international law, which is not in place, or for other reasons, including domestic ones. So it's not in it's in the Ukrainian interest to keep sanctions in place, but it's up to the Western side to decide what to do with them. As an alternative, we can propose at least two variants. Variant A, to proceed with the Minsk Accord as they have been written and agreed by the sides, and to put it in the right consequence and the right meaning of the agreement. Secondly, we can do something that should have been done before. We can sever the diplomatic relations with Russia, showing to the general public of Ukraine and to the international community what's really going on in Ukraine. It's not a civil war, it's in the act of aggression of Russian Federation against Ukraine. It began with Crimea, and then it fueled Donbas, and actually it could end with the returning of both these territories, occupied Donbas and Crimea, back to Ukraine. So we can pass the legislation calling the occupied territories of Donbas by the Russian side, and put in all the obligations of maintaining peace, security, and social benefits for those hostages who are been taken in Donbas on the Russian side. Then we need to impose an embargo to these territories, not supporting these people who are taking hostages, our citizens. And the same thing should be applied to Crimea. We should cancel the absolutely ridiculous law on the free economic zone on the occupied territory of Crimea, and we should impose blockade. At the same time, with the aim to avoid the humanitarian catastrophe, we need to provide those IDPs living in Donbas and Crimea with an opportunity to reintegrate into the free society of Ukraine, not occupied by Russian forces. Russia denies its involvement in the occupation of Crimea in the first place, and then it agreed that it was their military forces and it was special operation. And it denies its involvement in the conflict in Donbas. So the Minsk agreements are drafted in such a way there is a fallacy of perception that there is a civil war in Ukraine. And we need to break this perception, to change this perception, and that this aggressor is the Russian state. And we need to put an accent on this. Secondly, we can proclaim that Ukrainian armed forces will not make an offense on the occupied territories, even though leaving the right to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity by the military as well as diplomatic and other means. We can proceed with the special law, and especially it's the right place for such a law or such a clause in the law on the temporary occupied territories of Donbas. And certainly we can make a statement for our Western partners, showing that we have no interest in offending these territories and not solving this conflict on the Russian means, but instead waiting for the proper time to settle it.